Well, what's up, Burlingame Pres students? This is your 7 at 7, which is a 7-minute devotional that airs at 7 p.m. And tonight we're asking the question, who are you becoming in 2021? Now, if you know somebody who might be asking this question or maybe just needs a little bit of encouragement tonight, tag them in the comments, send them a message because we're going to grow together tonight, and I believe Jesus has something for each one of us. Now, my name is Koerten, and I have the privilege of working at another church here in the Bay Area with middle and high school students called Menlo Church, and I am honored that Tara has invited me to be here with y'all this week. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Growing up, I was a swimmer. Everything about my life was about swimming. It revolved around practice. It revolved around being at the pool. The water was my thing. Do you know what wasn't my thing? Land sports. Water good, land not so good. Now that doesn't mean that I didn't try, but only when I tried to do things on land, it usually ended up as an utter failure or else me getting injured. And so typically I just stuck to the water. Over the past 10 months, however, something interesting has happened. At the beginning of Shelter in Place, my wife and I had a conversation about things that we wanted to be true about us, and a couple of those things were these. We wanted to grow closer as a couple, and then 2, we also wanted to stay active. And so we decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by going on walks every single day after work. And those walks started with maybe 1 or 2 miles, but now we're to the point where we're walking 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 miles a day. And in the process, we're growing closer together, and I'm somewhat becoming a land sporter. Now, I'm not ready to claim it as my own, but I will say it's kind of nice. Now, I share this with you because, again, the question that we're asking tonight is, who are you becoming in 2021? Now, my hope for each one of us is that when we answer that question, we will answer it by saying, we are becoming more like Jesus. Theologian and scholar Dallas Willard once said, the ultimate goal of a disciple is to live every single moment of your life as though Jesus were you. Basically, as a follower of Jesus, our goal is that who we are becoming is more like Jesus in every aspect of our lives. You know, growing up, I wanted to become someone. I wanted to become the next Michael Jordan. I know, somewhat ironic because basketball is a land sport and, well, swimmer. But you know, what I decided to do was I wanted to start learning how Michael Jordan played basketball, thinking that if I did everything he did, if I wore his shoes, if I wore his jersey, if I mimicked him on the court, I would become the next Michael Jordan. And you know what happened? Well, I sat on the bench because, again, swimmer. But I'll tell you that when I think about how I tried to become more like Jordan, there's a lot in that I think we can learn about becoming more like Jesus. Because for me to become more like Jordan, I had to learn how Jordan lived, and I had to practice that in my own life. And when we want to become more like Jesus, we need to learn how Jesus lived and to start practicing the things that Jesus did. The Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 4, train yourself for godliness. While physical training has some value, training for godliness is useful for everything. It has promise for this life now and for the life to come. Train yourself for godliness. Train yourself to become more like Jesus because it impacts life now and the life to come. And I love that Paul says train and not try. If we talk about trying, oftentimes it's about whether you do or you don't. You try to pass that test. You try to read the Bible more. Training, on the other hand, focuses more about who do you become. When we train, we take little steps every day to grow, to become stronger, to become more like Jesus or reach a desired goal. Now, there's a cool thing that happens when we begin to train to become more like Jesus. Jesus tells us that when we say yes to following him, he gives us his Spirit. And so when we train, we actually aren't training all by ourselves. When we train, we are actually creating space for Jesus' Spirit to work in our lives to help us become more like Jesus. Paul writes in another letter, he says, the fruit of the Spirit, which is basically the byproduct of letting the Spirit work in our lives, is love, it's joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Saying that as Jesus' Spirit works in your life, as we train to become more like Jesus, we begin to love those people who are hard to love a little bit better. We begin to have a little bit more patience with those people who just get on our nerves. We begin to have more peace when the world around us seems to be crashing down. And man, I don't know about you, but this past year has been a challenging year, and 2021 doesn't seem to be letting up. And I know I need Jesus' peace in my life. You see, when we train to become more like Jesus, these fruit of the Spirit, these characteristics of Jesus become true about our lives. Who are you becoming in 2021? Here's my challenge to you. My challenge is to take some time to learn about Jesus' life, read about Jesus' life, and notice what are habits that Jesus do that you can begin to practice in your life as well. Maybe it's talking to God more. Maybe it's sitting in silence more to listen to God's voice. You want to train yourself to hear God's voice. Maybe it's you want to have practice having conversations with people who are difficult to love, and that Jesus will work in your life. Pick out a habit of Jesus and start practicing that in your life every single day. And if it's helpful to have somebody hold you accountable, type it in the comments below. Let us know, what are you going to train yourself with this year? Or maybe send a text to a friend and say, hey, this year I want to become more like Jesus, and this is how I want to start training to do that. You see, every single day is an opportunity for us to become more like Jesus. Who are you becoming in 2021?